Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another conversation lesson. Let's get right to it today. I'm going to open our Ingu website. As I always mention, you guys can come here by yourself or with a friend and read through some of these articles and have a conversation and, yeah, learn some new things from around the world. Let's see, what shall we do today? Well, let's go with this first new one, whatever that may be. Let's see. Finnish defense chief to take paternity leave. Okay, well, let's see. What do they say? Is it a good idea, a bad idea? Is it controversial? Is it necessary? Let's find out. We'll start off with the vocabulary as always. I'm going to read the word first. I'd like you to hit pause after each word, read it out loud, make sure you got the pronunciation correct. You can read out the word and the definition and the example sentence. Read everything and make sure you can pronounce everything. The more you read and speak out, the better your pronunciation will get, or the more natural it will get. Yeah. So let's go. First one, defense, military measures for protecting a country. The US has invested considerable amounts of money in ballistic missile defense over the past 70 years. Our next word, transfer, to move from one place to another. Holly transferred here from our office in New Hampshire. Then we have paternity leave, time away from work that a father is allowed to have after the birth of his child. The report found that nearly 14% of men took paternity leave in Japan in 2021. And that is paternity leave, not maternity. Maternity is for women, paternity for men. Next one, agency, a company or government organization that provides a service. The European Space Agency has worked with NASA on many projects. The next one, editorial, an article in which a publication's editor expresses their opinion. An editorial in the New York Times criticized the proposed tax changes. Next one, sympathize, to understand and feel sorry for someone else's problems. I know what getting through a divorce is like, so I truly sympathize. All right, let's move right to our article. So again, I'm going to read the whole article at once. You can hit pause after each little paragraph, read it out loud again, get the pronunciation right. If you're not sure, skip back a few seconds, listen again, read it out loud as many times as you need to feel comfortable. If it's also, I'm reading at a fairly normal speed so that you can hear what the pronunciation sounds like when people read at a normal speed. But if you have trouble, slow it down, and then as you get comfortable with it, you can slowly start increasing it. But I'm just reading it at this speed so that you can get an idea of what it should sound like. But don't worry if you read it slower, but take your time, get comfortable at first, and then as you get more comfortable with making the sounds, you can start increasing your speed. All right, Finnish defense chief to take paternity leave. Finland's defense minister Antti Kaikkonen has announced that he will be taking time off work in a few weeks to take care of his 6-month-old son. His 2 months of parental leave will start January 6th, and his Centre Party colleague Mikko Savola will replace him. Finland introduced a new parental leave system in September, which allows both parents to take 160 days of paid leave each and to transfer a certain amount of days between each other. It's nice. However, although most Finns do not seem worried about Kaikkonen's decision, it's still not common for male politicians in Finland to use their parental leave. This is the first time that a male minister has taken paternity leave for such a long period. Explaining his decision on Twitter, Kaikkonen wrote, "Children remain small only for a moment, and I want to remember it in ways other than just photos." Kaikkonen later told Finnish news agency STT that although his job is important, you've got to be able to put family first at some point. The news of Kaikkonen's leave comes at a difficult time. There is war in Europe. Finland will have a general election in early April, and the country is still waiting to join NATO. Finland applied for NATO membership in May after its neighbor Russia began the war in Ukraine. However, two NATO member states, Hungary and Turkey, have not yet agreed to Finland's application. Finland's leading newspaper, Helsingin Sanomat, said in an editorial that the country is likely to join NATO only after the new government has been decided, and that people outside Finland may not only be surprised but also sympathize with the defense minister, the newspaper added. At least it shows that there's no panic in Finland. Emilia Kangas, a researcher of Seinäjoki University of Applied Science, said Finland has seen a major change in attitudes over the past decade toward favoring parenthood that is equally divided between father and mother. Kaikkonen's paternity leave tells much about our Nordic values and welfare society, Kangas said. All right. Yeah, interesting. So let's have a discussion. Again, I'm going to read the question out loud. You can hit pause either before or after. If you want to hit pause before, you can give your answer first, then listen to what I say, see if we agree on things, or you can listen to my answer first, and then you can add things to it, or you can say you agree or disagree, or just give your opinion, whatever you feel like. All right. So, number one, what are your thoughts on Finland's defense minister taking paternity leave? Yeah, I mean, it's his right. Um, Again, I don't know, especially with the whole Russia-Ukraine situation, and they are neighboring countries, and they are kind of worried about Russia at the moment. That's why they kind of want to join NATO, as far as I understand. But I don't think Russia really has any issues with Finland, except maybe for the fact that they want to join NATO. That might be a problem for Russia. But I don't think it's that much of a problem to start making problems with another country if they already have issues with the Ukraine. Um, yeah, it's a tricky one. You know, the higher your position gets, the more responsibility you have towards your job. And obviously, he's probably getting paid really well for what he's doing. So there's a sense of responsibility towards the country, but also towards his family. So I'm sure he'll take paternity leave, but if something happens and they really need him, if the other person's not capable of doing the job, then he would probably come in if there's some emergency, you know. But if nothing, then the other person can probably do the job. So yeah, actually, I don't think I have a problem with it. Number two, would it be unusual for a politician to take paternity leave in your country? In my country, I'm talking now South Africa, not Thailand, because now I live in Thailand. I don't know what Thailand's situation is on paternity leave. I don't think it's a common thing here. I don't know if it's allowed here. But in my country, politicians would take leave without even being granted leave. They just do whatever they want. They just corrupt as hell. Um, yeah, it's terrible what's going on in my country when it comes to politicians. So, no, they do what they want. They would take A politician would take paternity leave in my country, then they would take extra leave, and they would get a bonus during all of this time of absence, probably. All right. Number three, how much leave are new fathers entitled to in your country? Has this changed in recent times? I think in South Africa, I'm not sure. I don't think there's any like paternal leave for maybe like a week. Maybe some places would give you a week. I don't know if there's anything in law. A lot of companies would maybe give you like a week. But maybe a lot of people also just take some of the annual leave. I don't think there's a lot in South Africa or Thailand that benefits the fathers in that way. How have people's attitudes towards parenthood changed in your country over the past decade? I think in South Africa, parenthood, um, people have always, well, this is going to sound bad, but within the communities that I grew up in, parenthood has always been, people have always loved their children a lot and tried to give them the best life and try to give them the best opportunities. So that's the environment that I grew up in, which is very nice. And I think it's still the same way. Yeah. Thailand, I'm not sure. I have no idea, to be honest. I have seen, yeah, people put, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to comment on things that I could give a false impression of. So yeah, I'm not sure. Number five, what would you say are the hardest things about raising kids in your country? Um, well, like I said, I live in Thailand, and I don't know. I think Thailand's quite a nice place to raise kids. They're very open and accepting. I don't hear much about bullying and things like that. There's no real drug problems or crime or violence, anything. So I think it's quite nice in that regard. Um, but again, also I think social media, and I think that's a problem probably all around the world, social media and the influence kids get from outside and people, they just bombarded with information from people that shouldn't be giving out information. So kind of monitoring the information your child gets. You cannot really monitor it. You can maybe try and teach your kid how to objectively look at things and listen to somebody and like, oh, this person's full of it, maybe this person's talking some sense, but I need to look further. I cannot just take one person's word on something. But again, just the sheer amount of false information that kids get bombarded with, I think, is a problem and a difficult thing to manage. All right, further discussion. Have any of your friends or family recently become parents? Not like recently. My step brother-in-law, what do you call it? They had a baby like a year ago, but not like within the months, past few months, no. Although my sister-in-law's sister is gonna have a baby now, very, very soon, within the next week or two, I think. Yeah. And I know them, but yeah, I guess that's the answer. Number two, what would you say is the hardest thing about being a new parent? Well, I have, to be honest, I have a daughter, who she's 17 now. She turns 17 this year, but a new parent, I didn't really experience that because she's technically my stepdaughter, and I came into her life when she was 6 years old. So I just got a 6 year old like that. So I didn't know the first few phases. Yeah. And I don't know a new parent because I met her and I was together with her mom in the beginning, and it was only like after a year where we were kind of more like, okay, now we're starting to be a family. Um, and by that time, she already trusted me. She knew me very well, and her dad was kind of a deadbeat, so he wasn't in the picture at all. So it was easier to accept me as her dad now. Yeah, so I was kind of fortunate in that way. But as I don't know, a new parent, if I had to guess, I can just guess. Maybe it's just the irregular routine, getting up a lot and cleaning a lot and feeding or helping the wife when she has to feed, or making sure, because from what it sounds like, it seemed like babies get sick quite a lot, so hospital visits all the time and all these things. So I think that can be quite draining. Yeah. Number three, do you know many people who don't plan on having kids? Um, yeah, I do. Who do I know? There was somebody, who was it? Somebody that I just came across recently that said they're not going to have kids and they're kind of old already. Um, man, who was it? I don't remember now off the top of my head. But then as for me, because I don't have technically my own physical child, but now my wife, she was pregnant before we had a miscarriage, but she was also very, very sick. So I'm like, ugh, I don't want to put her through. She had to go to hospital for over a month, just vomiting all the time, and she just she lost over 10 kilograms, and she's already kind of tiny. So she was just it kind of killed her. So I don't want to risk that again. Um, so maybe I won't have my own, but I have a daughter and I have the whole family experience, so I'm happy with that. I'm fulfilled with my family experience. Yeah. Number four, what do you imagine are the best countries in which to raise a child? I would say probably some kind of Scandinavian country, Norway, Finland, um, what's the other one? Ah, Norway. Oh, my cousin lives there. Denmark. Um, yeah, one of those places would probably be quite nice. Yeah, I would say they've got a good balance of everything, good quality of life balance, I think. But the weather, ooh, I don't like the winters. That's why I love Thailand. Maybe Thailand would be the best, because it's just nice weather. You just have to raise your child correctly and, maybe Thailand. All right, number five. Every father should remember one day his son will follow his example, not his advice. Charles Kettering. What are your thoughts on this statement? Um, I, d- I do agree with it. I do agree with it. We have to lead by example. A lot of times my dad also said like, do as I say, not as I do, but that doesn't work. But luckily, because my dad, he loved lying. He lied without blinking an eye. He would just lie about all sorts of things and wasn't a very honest person, but he was a wonderful father. He was a great dad. Um, but my mom, because my dad lied so much, my mom always drilled it in us. You don't lie, always tell the truth. So, and she was like that. So I kind of, maybe I got the example from my mom. So I didn't have to follow my dad's example because I don't like lying. I don't like it. I, unless I'm lying for the benefit of somebody, to like if there's a gift and I'm not going to tell you what it is, or something good, I'll lie for a good reason, but not to cheat or deceive somebody. Um, so I don't know if I 100%, you know, agree with that because my dad, even though he was like that, I'm not like that, but maybe I followed my mom's example, so I'm not too sure. But I do believe we should lead by example. Yeah. And even my daughter, I try and tell her, and I'll tell her things, and sometimes I'll tell her things, and I'll tell her like, listen, hey, I'm struggling with this too. Like even like the mobile phones, like the whole family's scrolling on phones, and I'll tell them like, hey, we need to go outside, go for a walk, do things, and I'll tell her like, hey, I'm struggling too. I'm having a hard time putting this down, but this is what we should try and do. This is what we supposed to do. And I think sometimes if we can acknowledge that we also have a hard time figuring things out and dealing with things, then they can understand like, okay, it's not like he's just being hypocritical. He's not just telling me to do it, but he doesn't do it. It's like he's telling me to do it, but he's also struggling with it. So I should also try and struggle to get free of this thing. Maybe like that would be a better approach. Who knows? But that's my thoughts on the statement. All right. Well, guys, that's it again. So that's everything. This is the last lesson for this year. I'll make new ones in the new year again. So have a good New Year's Eve. And if you watch this video after New Year's Eve, I hope you have a wonderful year, whichever year it may be in. See you next time. Bye bye.